obviously, when we think of those days, we think of Gary, we think of you, Keith. So as this news, and I'm sure you've had a chance, as we all knew, that things were not going well for Gary. You had a lot of thoughts and time to think about this, but what went through your head?
Well, I knew that he was in the hospital and was being heavily sedated and for his comfort, so I knew it was a matter of days, before he was going to pass. But, you tend to kind of put the blinders on and kind of get in denial. But then when, you hear the news, it hit me hard, I must say, Mike, that I lost around 5 teammates over my career. And this one really, really shook me. And I didn't think it would as much as it did. It just reached the depths of my emotions. It just really, really bothered me.
Why do you think so?
I don't know. I've been mulling this over, Mike, now for the last 24 hours. And, Gary was a powerful guy, a powerful, strong individual. We were linked together in that club like no other teammate I've ever been linked with in the 17 years that I played in the big leagues. And I guess here in New York, the winning of the World Series, I'm just trying to piece it all together. I really don't have all the answers.
It is. I guess that's a new dynamic for someone like you as you get to a certain age and you start to lose teammates and you think about the guys you played with and grew up with. Athletes go through different cycles. When your career first ends, that's one cycle. I guess as people start to pass, that's another cycle. So maybe you start to sense your own mortality a little bit,
Well, I think you sense it when, I've lost both my parents, and that's a real sense of,
no question,
of being alone in the world and having to stand up on your own 2 feet now. You haven't got mom and dad to support you. And so that's, to me, is always the most difficult one. But this one's unique. It just really shook me, Mike. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing else. I can't find the words to elaborate the depths of my emotions.
Interestingly, the 86 means so much to the Met fan, and especially when the Met fan goes through these lean times, they think back to those halcyon days, and 86 means a great deal. And you were brought in to teach this young team, and you were still at the heights of your talents. Gary was brought in to do the same thing. You two were the leaders of a very talented group, kind of a wild bunch. You both were very different, your approach, but you were clearly the leaders of that team. How about that dynamic with you and with Gary with that young team?
Well, it was proportioned out beautifully. I mean, Gary was, that young pitching staff was perfect. When we made the trade for him and I heard about it in the off season, I was just ecstatic because I always felt he called the best game in the National League, the most aggressive game, and he caught all those great pitching staffs and great starting rotations up in Montreal. And I think a credit to the Met staff was that Gary had always told me that hands down, that starting 5 for New York was the best he ever caught. But he also, I think Frank Cashin touched on this, Mike, that Frank felt that his offense was needed, obviously. It gave us, an overload of left hitters. It gave us a right-handed bat to go in between Darryl and myself and a power bat. It was perfect. But the way he handled the young staff, the young pitching staff, all that talent, he was the right guy for the job. He knew the hitters. He called a great game, and they all learned from him, and they'll all tell you that. So, my other part of the job was I was in the field. I didn't have any control over what was going on. It's a very important position, Kat. It's very important, and that's out of my realm and depth. So it was a good, I guess, co-captaincy.
Was it ever a tough captaincy? Was it ever a tough to be dual leaders? Was it ever a thing that clashed? Were you different, obviously different in your own ways, but was it a seamless leadership, or did you have some issues when you led together?
No, it was seamless and shared. The common goal was winning. and the personal, strong egos, both Gary and myself, but it all subordinated to the common goal, which was the team, and of course winning. Was never an issue. I remember when we traded for him, I read the articles, how is Carter and Hernandez going to get along? Two strong guys. I went out of my way in spring training and that first year in '85 to really make that the transition, Gary coming over and joining us, as smooth as possible. And it didn't require any effort. And Gary was a gamer, and his main focus was winning.
And you both, clearly you both were gamers. You both were exceedingly talented players. Top players. You were an MVP. He becomes a Hall of Famer. You both were very, very talented players. When you think of Gary Carter, the baseball player, what jumps out at you? What do you think about as far as Gary Carter, even maybe before he was a Met, when you looked at him in Montreal, what do you think about as Gary Carter as a baseball player?
A hustler. I'll say that it was a guy when you played against him that he kind of rubbed you the wrong way. But when you played with him and you got to know him, it completely changed.